Bismillah. So what you have here is another two-wheel toy of mine. This one doesn't come with an engine. This is pure foot power. I've had this bike for 9 years, maybe more, about 9-10 years, and it's done me good. I bought it to commute. I think I got it from Halfords. This is a Carrera Vengeance, and I bought it for like 240 quid or something. I remember when I bought it, a week later it went on sale for like 180 quid. So I went back and I said, yo, can you hook me up the sale price for it? And they were kind enough to do that. So £180 divided by 10 years. So I've definitely earned my money back in where it's got me, you know, far and wide. I'm not sure how much mileage I've done on it, but yeah, 9 years worth of cycling to and back from my train station. So it's a good day today. It's a glorious day, and I'm gonna go for a quick bike ride to Willen Lake and talk a little bit about politics, I guess. I'm not an expert in politics. I'm just as much versed in politics as your common man. What you see on the news, what you read, what you're told, and just your general thoughts, really. Or what you put together, or what you see on the TV screen, and how you make sense of it. You're right. I wish I could. I can't do wheelies. Yeah, I've been riding bikes my whole life. Can't even do a wheelie. And this is not going to be the video to try either. So yeah, I wanted to talk about politics on 3 levels. I'll start with the wider level, which is global politics. So nations, governments, sovereigns, my thoughts on that. Then bring it down closer to communities, politics within communities. And then the final section is politics within your own family unit. From the start of time, you know, humans and civilizations, tribes, call it what you like, there's always been this leader, follower mindset. And, you know, in the early civilizations, it would be down to the ones that had the most strength, knowledge, and could protect their people, you know, from outside attacks, whether that's other people, you know, other nations attacking them, or from just other elements. You know, the first protocol is security, protecting your country, protecting your nation from being destroyed. So kings of old, if you like, they were selected on their attributes when it came to bravery, when it came to fighting, and when it came to knowledge, you know, knowing what the best decision is to take, you know, having a good sense of judgment. And when I was younger, reading Aristotle and Plato, it was all about having the philosopher ruler, having a wise, honest ruler who would have an innate strength not to be compromised by the lesser state, you know, the state of the beast. What I mean by that is you know, the carnal desires, desire for wealth, family, food, and just, you know, more twisted ventures like violence, breaking laws, becoming rebellious against religious texts. Plato and Aristotle spoke about a leader that was a true judge of the people, who was unwavering in their commitment to serve the community, to serve their people. And they were great intellects, great fighters, of great kind of genetic makeup as well. You know, they were strong, fit for purpose, if you like, the makeup of a true leader. And then everything would trickle down. You'd have the farmers, the artisans, the skilled workers, everyone beneath them, the army. That was the traditional or classical style for politics, I guess. And you saw that, you know, Saladin, King Richard, Abraham Lincoln. You saw great leaders take their nations to the next level, grow power, but also make a prosperous nation. And today, it's not the case. Today, a lot of people in power, due to their previous background, whether that's business, being in the military, being some kind of agent for the state, and for some, just by being born in it, and unfortunately being the natural successor without being tested, without being, if you like, pegged or benchmarked to what the previous rulers were like in their family. And the world today is full of ignorant leaders who are very detached from what's going on the ground. And I would say this existed not just now, it has done for hundreds of years. Kings held up between four walls of their castle or their moat, and the peasantry would work on their land to farm the food, and they'd give them a portion of that in taxes. And at times, particularly in the Mughal Empire in India, kings were distracted with building grandiose tombs for their wives, for their lovers, and sometimes money and resource would just be wasted to their ventures, if you like, and the people would suffer. And oftentimes you saw these kingdoms would collapse, and they collapse off the back of their own shortcomings. You know, they were either they would be spending in excess, holding power through the most brutal and unjust ways, that they lost favor with the people. And I see that today, I see that today with nations now having rulers who are completely detached from what's really happening. And a lot of them now are in power because of wealthy companies and wealthy friends keeping them there. And what's happened is these, if you like, noblemen or higher class, their goals and their requirements aren't fitting for your common person. For them, it's about gaining more control, gaining more resource, becoming more profitable. And they've come to so much control of the essential functions of society, whether that's energy, gas, electric, oil, military, weapons making, producing technologies. They are now vital to the survival of a government. And to some degree, they've taken over the mind of our politicians. So they're now speaking not for themselves or for the common man, they're now speaking on behalf of the people who pay them, who make them wealthy, and who, to some degree, keep them in power. He who has the product and the service that's most in demand could leverage that and gain power, political power as well. And the world today, I think, this is just my opinion, it's been hijacked by false prophets, the profiteers. And there's this growing hatred, and I think leaders now, they're not qualified. I genuinely believe they're not qualified to run a country. They're not qualified they don't have the judgment or the qualities to look after the greater nation. People have just gotten used to that now. We've gotten so used to having unqualified leaders. And I think people have also lost, to some extent, the ability to rise up and change powers. We're now in a sedated state where we have more essentials than the same common man hundreds of years ago who would just have, very small space to live with his family. He'd have his basic food and livestock. But today, people have all kinds of pleasures. Everyone has at least 2 TVs in their house, 2 cars. Everyone's going on a holiday. Like we've been to some degree, we sold ourselves really to let someone run the country while we just enjoy life really and just be in that state of sleep, As our conscience increases with knowledge and having more access to history, I find it really sad that young men were sent to fight in wars that didn't really benefit them at home. Just people sent to march to die for some politician's greed or his gripe, if you like, with another leader across the ocean. And they blanket it and wrap it up in, fight for your country, fight for your leader. They're coming to attack us, they're coming to take over, or that they're an evil entity and we are good, that we must destroy this evil entity. And we've been tricked, duped into being made tools for these higher powers. And it's sad, if you look at Russia, Ukraine, men are being marched to the front line by force. If you're a prisoner or if you're a person in a particular age bracket, you have to abide. Otherwise, you'll be thrown into prison. And once you end up in prison, you lose your rights. And once you're in prison, they just say, okay, you're off to the front line. Some of the average lifespan of these men were like a week, 2 weeks max. And they were just used like cannon fodder. I think they use the term mince meat, which is really sad. That you, a young person who's been born to a loving mother and father, who's raised, they took time to care for you, nurture you, educate you, bring you up, only for you to just be pulled from their grasp and just sent to some front line where you're gonna survive, if you're lucky, a week, 2. That's heartbreaking. And they didn't really vote or have a say in that. And that's why politics today, I can't trust it. Just when we had the pandemic, people were told to stay indoors and take whatever medicine that the government gave them. And we took it, and I have relatives today who are still suffering from it. You know, they have heart problems. They just don't feel the same. They've got all kinds of ailments from it. And time again, we find out how many different scandals, different mistreatments the government's done in service, whether that's in orphanages, in medical vaccinations, whether that's in different social experiments. You know, some of these papers and these documents have been uncovered that the government has abused people, and they were all thrown under the rug, hidden, locked away in a drawer. So you can't really trust the government to say, oh, you know, things will be different now. They've time and time again proven that they will take shortcuts, they will lie. I also think that the way our election system and the way we put people in power, that itself is flawed. You know, we give people X amount of years in term, and then that short time makes them very desperate to prove that they are great, just so that they can be voted in again. And yeah, we've got some rules that say you can be in power maximum 2 terms, then you got to change over. But it makes them start to do things very short term, and they will take shortcuts, they will lie, and they will create false narratives to gain resource and gain benefits, supposed benefits for their country. It's such a moral hazard, you know, that I've got X amount of time to try and rob, steal, lie, manipulate, to fill my pockets as much as possible and put my friends in power. And I think their opposition have thought we need to play the same game. You know, I think honesty now is such a weak trait in politics. You can say that going into politics is not for honest men. People who crave power will go into politics. I believe that. And so I believe that righteous people, people with honor and wisdom, they're voiceless today. You know, they don't have that power to benefit the world. They're only in small circles, and those who know of them and are friends with them will stay close to them and learn from them, but it won't be on that scale. They'll just be forgotten by most of society. and that's sad. Politics now here in our communities, you know, whether you call it Milton Keynes, whether you call it the Borough of London, whether you call it Yorkshire, we have our local MPs, we have our local ministers. They themselves are playing two games. One, which is the game in the powerhouse in the capital, in Parliament, right? They need to make sure that they are adhering to whatever orders they get sent down. To get their wage, to get their benefits. And at the same time, they're looking inward to their communities and whatever budget they have and whatever agenda they have, they try to, they try to apply it to their community. But oftentimes, you don't even hear from them. Oftentimes, you don't find that they're actually truly involved. I remember emailing one of our MPs in my part of Milton Keynes. Never got a response back. You know, that's subjective, obviously, because someone may have done the same thing and got a response, but they're not really wanting to listen. I remember I wrote to them for something very minor. There's this basketball court that I grew up playing in, and today it's in a really bad state. So I emailed them to say, is there any chance that we could get it repainted, maybe a grid fence around it to stop the ball from going into the trees and bushes, and just new nets, because the nets are missing. The backboard is also like in a bad shape. And
which way do you think?
Yeah, it just, yeah. And basically, it's not a priority, I guess. Politics in your community should be about bringing people together, identifying common causes of pain. Whether that's roads, in the condition of roads, whether that's safety for children, whether that's, curbing crime in the area, because everyone's, whether you're black, white, Christian, Muslim, if you're in a community, you're seeing the same thing. You're breathing the same air, your experience is the same. You're experiencing the same struggles as your next door neighbor. And so there was supposed to be a leader within your community, within your shire, to gather those. And you'd have these, if you like, town halls, where they call the community together to listen and to tell them a plan. Listen and tell them a plan of what they're going to do about it. And they partake in the community. They wouldn't be afraid to meet the people on the ground. And I feel like that's gone as well, Things just happen in my town and I don't remember or vaguely know of being asked or being part of a discussion, at least a survey, before something's done. We're getting tram lines now in Milton Keynes, so I signed up for that to give my opinion, and I'm not sure. Would they listen? Would they really take your comments? I guess it comes down to mass opinion. If all the people are on one side, regardless of creed, colour, and not diversified, you stand to have a greater say in what's done with your community and country. And the police is another issue. Police were first brought out to protect the public, to protect the royalties, to protect the leaders, but mainly to make sure that law and order was maintained. What was originally put in place to protect us and maintain law and order and give people the civil service of protection is now gone. It's not the case now. People are afraid of the police. They're afraid of voicing their opinion. They're scared of protesting. And this is because I suppose the leaders have just used them instead to protect them behind their walls. The law and order that is being maintained isn't the law and order that the people necessarily pick. You know, when you have a bad leader that causes the youth and everyone under to lose faith and trust in the direction of where things are going. And when that happens, you get rebellion. Crime goes up because people start to find means of either extorting whoever they can get hold of in the community, or just straight heedlessness, you know, just anarchy. And when that happens, you know, your local imam will fail, your local council in the parish will struggle connecting to the teens. And that's it, they'll lose the mind of the youth. And then amongst the youth, you're going to get divide. There's going to be the youth that are the children of the people in power, and then the youth who are the children are the people who are the, if you like, common person, common man. And they'll be far and wide apart. And I feel like there's a gap now, at least a growing gap, in what they believe should be the direction of the country and community. It's crazy because democracy was supposed to replace kings and queens and dynasties, but it still exists. It still exists in a very different way. And I think communities can flourish from businesses who, again, are the ones keeping politicians in power, coming into your area and opening up jobs, opening up trade. And initially, you think that's a good thing. But what we're not realizing is they will keep us working, paying us as minimal as possible, whilst they continue to influence politics in the capital. And so communities can flourish that way. Another way communities can flourish is by innovation amongst its people, whether that's creativity, sports, if you like, having a specialty that other areas don't have. That could give them back some power, that can give them back some force, if you like, to be reckoned with. Certain nations are known to be great artisans, skilled in a particular type of pottery or particular type of artwork or utensil. Certain areas are known to be great miners. Other areas are known to be great cooks or great purveyors of wines and they themselves could come up and bring wealth to their community. And likewise, start to get involved in the decision making and the politics in the capital. But until that's happened, many communities will just waste away. England has so many communities, particularly on the seaside, are just unemployed, mass unemployment, high drug abuse rates, domestic violence, learning difficulties, and just not prosperous at all. And that's a result of our leaders on a government level and on a local municipal level just ignoring them and forgetting about them. No one's going to vote for you to be in power because you want to really just serve the people and not make money off it. And you don't really have the old style way of proving yourself as a leader. Before, a leader would be, they'd be victorious in battle, they'd be master strategists, they would be, genius in some way, and the people would find them to be the one to go to. They were popular, they were trusted, relied upon, and they fought and died for the people. Do you see your politician now wanting to march out on the front line? It's not going to happen. They'd rather send you literally just finished your GCSEs, looking to go to college, they'd rather send you. You've not even lived, you've not even tasted your first paycheck, but they're ready to march you out. You can carry a gun and a bayonet before you can even drink or even drive a car in some countries. It's sad, But I do think that there is a law of the world. There's a universal law that corruption and evil destroys itself from within. Corruption and evil destroys itself from within. And you're seeing that now, the decline of nations. And, there's that saying, difficult times give birth to strong men. And strong men pave the way for good times. And good times give birth to weak men. Things will change, things will get better. Whether we're going to be around for it, that's another question. But I think the universe has a way of balancing itself out. It has a way of balancing itself out and taking out the trash, if you like. But there'll be a huge human cost to it, through war, famine, disease. A correction is always painful. And finally, I wanted to talk about politics at home. What I mean by home is your family, your parents, your uncles, aunties, your grandparents. Every family should have a leader. It should have a grandfather or the godfather, if you like. Someone who is connected to your community leader, who then is connected to your national leader. And for a second, I thought I was on my motorbike. Your family leader should be one who is aware of politics and is aware of what's going on in your community and what's going on in your country, and whatever value system you derive in your family, whether that's one of prosperity, one of spreading peace, one of mastering a particular craft in your family, and one of being a benefit to your society. You know, my cousins, they have a football community. They started a football club and they do a lot. You know, they help bring up youth. They bring up the kids, they get them trained in football and try to give them a chance at being successful footballers. And not only that, they're always hosting charity tournaments, and they're bringing people together, black, white, Irish, Pakistani, you name it. You know, they do a lot. And a leader in the family can at least enforce that and inspire their family to go out and be connected to their community and try and do good for their community. And I think a lot of families nowadays, there's no real direction because the leader in your family may be distracted with something else, whether that's their own gain, corrupted by similar means like their own leaders in their community and country. You know, looking for gain in wealth, looking to advance only their children, but not so much the rest of the family, the wider family. You know, there's families, look within your own family, you'll see, if you look hard, you'll see you have doctors in your family, you have lawyers, accountants, you have mechanics, you have bus drivers, cabbies, you have all sorts of people from society that are contributing to society. They're around you. And if you pull that knowledge together as a family, you could leverage and contribute a solid word towards your community leader, whether that's your MP or councillor, mayor, whatever. And if your family is tight and able to prosper, to gain influence through good means. I don't mean by being a family of criminals or a violent family. I mean a family that gains the popularity of people and the common opinion of the people. They can help gather and channel that word. Then you can have a successful family that is connected to the powers in the country, you know, through an indirect means. But a lot of families are broken, you know, a lot of families, they don't speak or connect with each other. And so whatever ideas, even if their values are the same, they're not transmitted effectively. There's no communication. Oftentimes there's a breakdown in the family because of some very small issue, whether that's a personality issue or a saga, if you like, of events in the family. At the end of the day, we were all children. We fought over toys. We fought over things. We fought on the dinner table, fought over the TV remote. And even when you grow up and you're a full-on adult, you still have those traits. With your siblings, you know, you still have those traits where you might have some kind of toxic relationship with your parents, whether they were very harsh on you, whether they were never around, very loose and didn't care what you were doing. We have flaws in a family, and believe me, those higher powers that really don't care for the benefit of humanity, they would love to see your family broken. They would love to see you alone, you know, like a sheep on its own, away from the flock, because then you're easy to control and you have no power, you know, no atomic power to contribute a small word to a bigger cause. Because you're distracted, you're sad, you're depressed, you're alone. And that's the danger, you know. And in Islam, you know, it really talks about having the family unit, keeping ties with your kin, keeping close ties with your kin. Even if your relative has done wrong to you, you should always give them access to come see you. You should go see them. Even if they turn you away, keep trying, keep making efforts to go see them. Because when love in family grows, the family itself, with a true leader, can be effective to the people around them. Not just within, they'll obviously be effective to themselves, but to their community. And look at these notable families. The Medicis, the Rothschilds, you know, the family in Windsor, the House of Saud. These were once people who were commoners, you know. They did day-to-day work. They were shepherds, they were nomads, they were barefoot at times. And they grew. And some divine fortune within their family gave rise to a leader amongst them. And that leader united them under one banner and one goal. And they gained influence, they gained power, and they grew their lands, they grew the people around them. And today these are powerhouses. Have they lost their way and become corrupted? Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, my granddad, whatever he set out to do in his prime, my goals may not be the same. It may not fall far from the tree, but it may not be the same. And my grandchildren, if I ever have any, who's to say they will follow the same path? And this all comes down to the culture and ethos of your family. You know how like companies have the principles, their core values. Families should establish that within themselves and nurture their young to follow these principles. And there should be principles of good, guided by goodness, guided by God's teachings. And then you should have success, inshallah. So I'll end it there. That politics today is like politricks. You know, just be wary that everything you're seeing, all these leaders that you have, they're not necessarily the righteous. They're not the righteous leaders that we read about in books. And many a time, they're exposed for their flaws, their lies, their deceit. And when you find out, it'll be too late. The government would have changed. They would never have been brought to question or never really tried and sent to court. It'll be too late. They'll move on, take their wealth with them, live a quiet existence and die in their big beds, surrounded by their servants. So don't become a victim of their lies. Don't become a victim of their deceit. Stay conscious, stay awake, and build your family from within. And then from your family, build your community. And then from your community, build your country. Alright, cool guys, thank you. Salam.